become champions on 67. And then he's a Westman. They bust him in the thousands. You see the boys become champions. Thought they had it won. The wish of the world had turned free, and now it's known as the Celtic way. Wave for the ball from side to side, and until they try to hide. The wave for the ball from front to back. Attack, attack, attack at the 67. And then he's a Westman. The bottom and the bounds.
Good evening everybody, welcome to Celtic Rumours TV, episode number 225 of the Bawz and Bovril podcast with myself, Mark. Tonight we've got our wee angry Irishman with us. How are you doing, Terns?
Good evening, bud, how are you?
I'm doing fair, aye, there's a wee picture for you there, you're there.
Are you appropriate for the day that's in it?
Aye. Happy St Patrick's Day to you as well,
Thank you very
Terns, and
much.
everybody else that's listening in. As I said, this is a podcast for our forum at www.CelticRumoursTV.co.uk. You can find the links to everything like that in the description box below. Our Discord, not everything's in there. A few shout outs to some of the lads for the forum, and before we get started, wait till I find that page if I can. Paul, Mad Dog McGinn, JFP, John's brother isn't keeping too well the news, so don't know where John is. I've not really heard from him much the last couple of days, but hopefully his brother's doing a bit better anyway. Old Tim Alloy, Mikey, Jonas, wee John United Ireland, Big Jabber, Welshie, Deef Kev, Malika, TB as well. Who we got in? Bobby, evening Bobby, Grot Bags. Joe McBride, thanks very much for coming in, Joe. It's a new name, I think, as well, Joe. Mark McDonald, thanks for coming in. Rod Patel, nice to see you, mate. Well, that's it. We've got on with it, Terns. We've not been on for a week or so we'll get back to you. We might as well bring it up, Terns, the cup game at Ibrox.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, they got the result. It mightn't have been pretty, but I don't necessarily think Rangers had a huge amount of clear-cut chances. Obviously, they scored a goal that was disallowed for a handball. Celtic scored a goal for very touch and go offside. I mean, it was what you would expect from Martin O'Neill. He knows how to get a team to get results. He knew probably if they went toe to toe with Rangers, they may lack that little bit of quality that they require. But the defence to a man stood up. You know, I mean, the keeper, the Celtic keeper, did he have a lot of big saves to make? Not that I can recall. I mean, it was a horrible 120 minutes to watch for nerves-wise. And then the penalties were the same. But in fairness to credit to the Celtic players, they all stood up to a man and they tucked him away exceptionally well. And thankfully, it was the Rangers players that bottled it under pressure. And, you know, defensively, guys have been very critical of a lot of players, but, you know, the defence stood up massively, you know. I know, you know, they just defended really, really well, really, really solid. I think it has helped massively, Mark, that Tate now looks like the player we know he can be. And obviously he came on in that second half and he was excellent. So I just think in general, they just dug out a result. They just knew how to get out of the result. And that's down to O'Neill and no one else. Because other managers, whether it was Rodgers or whether it was certainly not Nancy, they wouldn't have been able to do what O'Neill is able to do. They just would not have been able to do it.
As you said as well, Terence, you've got to give the players a lot of credit. I mean, we've bashed them enough over the season for some of their performances, but I mean, for what we're doing to the bare bones of our squad, whether it's through injuries, poor decisions in the transfer market, whatever. But you've got to give the players, whether we rate them personally or no, you've got to give them a lot of credit for even getting us back into. Well, I mean, I always said we were going to win the league, do you know what I mean? Especially when Martin O'Neill came back, but the players had to still get in that. I'd have struggled enough to fight and dig and graft for everything, but they have pulled us through the mire a bit.
They have, Mark, but this is my point. These are the same players that, dare I say, wouldn't have done that for another manager. It's a combination of how good O'Neill is as a man, as a coach, and the people he's got around him with. Fotheringham is supposed to be very good, and Maloney obviously is getting a tune out of the players. When you see players, they were diving to block shots, throwing their bodies in the way. Didn't matter if it was their head, their whatever, it was getting in the way. Something was getting in the way of the shot. Something was blocking the Rangers shot coming in, tackling. To a man, they just defended. And listen, the other side of Mark is defending is an art as well. Like, how many times will you hear years and years gone by that obviously how brilliant a defender Brazy was, or how brilliant a defender Vidic was, or how brilliant a defender Maldini was. I know before anyone says, I'm not comparing anyone in the Celtic team to any of these guys. But what I'm saying is, first and foremost, as a defender, you defend.
What about Scales? You've got to put Scales in that bracket.
Oh, listen, Mark, Scales has been a whipping boy continuously, because he can make a mistake no more than any of the other Celtic players. But the one thing you won't lack is courage, and the one thing you won't lack is putting his head sometimes where most people wouldn't put their boot. And he thrown himself on, he just did everything he had to try and do to get that to defend, as all the rest of the players did. You know, all the other players were the exact same. They just, to a man, they were just absolutely magnificent the way they defended, and they soaked up the pressure. And Rangers had no answer at the end of it. They just could not break them down. And this is something that we would have been very critical of Celtic teams playing against other opposition, where the opposition might have with the 11 men behind the ball, and we would argue Celtic are slow, they can't break them down. Rangers were the same. Rangers could not break Celtic down.
Aye, definitely. I mean, a lot of the talk's been like how poor we actually were. We played, but I mean, I've said this all along all season as well. They're rank rotten. Hearts are rank rotten, and we're rank rotten as well. Terms, I'm not disputing that. Do you know what I mean? But we're grinding out results, but none of the three teams have put any kind of decent run of form together. No, because everybody. We seem to be doing no bad now under O'Neill, but when you look at even Hearts and Rangers, it's like Hearts went to Ibrox and they lost the other week, and then they won a couple of games, but then they get beat at the weekend there, and Rangers they drew here and they lost. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of, no team. If any of the three teams could have put any kind of decent running for them together, they'd have ran away with the league.
Mark, the best footballing team in the league is Motherwell.
Aye.
You know, I know we'll get onto the game at the weekend, but they're the best footballing team, and if they probably had a better run at the start of the season or something like that, they mightn't be a million miles away from it. As crazy as that sounds, you know, as crazy as it sounds, but like the league, or like what O'Neill has done, it wasn't that long ago that Celtic were probably 9 points behind or something crazy like that, you know, and they've clawed it back. Like they've had four, if I'm not mistaken, 4 very hard away games. You know, there were 2 games in Ibrox. They were away in Germany, and I think they were away the week before. They were away in Pittodrie. So they had Rangers away, Stuttgart, Rangers and Pittodrie. So they've had 4 very, very difficult games, and they've come out of them with basically drawing in Rangers in the league, beating Stuttgart away, beating Aberdeen away, and knocking Rangers out in penalties. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just that would not have happened to Celtic team that was managed by any of the last 2 managers, Rodgers or Nancy. You can't really consider Nancy a manager, but it wouldn't have even happened. O'Neill just has this magic of getting the right people around him and getting players to believe, because whatever they said to Hatate, he's transformed in the last couple of weeks. It was in the second half of when they were in the league game when they were 2-0 down. He came on at half time, and he's been a different animal since then. Whatever's been said to him, like we said, whether it's a case of you perform now and you'll get yourself the big move or whatever it may be. But you now don't fear Celtic going away from home.
Maybe even he's got his big move arranged, Terence. Maybe it's all done and dusted and arranged for the summer, so he's more content.
Maybe it could be, Mark. It could be. Well, whatever's after happening, we've now got a player that we know, because I even watched him the weekend in the Motherwell game, and he was excellent. And even when Celtic scored the second penalty, if you see his reaction, he's diving on the ground and banging the ground, and
he felt kind of responsible for the Motherwell goal, didn't he?
Yeah, but again, I think that's down to just.
Oh no, but I think that was his relief terms, because he felt responsible a bit for the Motherwell goal. When we got in front, he kind of felt the relief that it wasn't going to cost us anything serious.
And you're probably right, Mark, but I don't think Hatate would have given you that reaction 3 months ago.
No, good point,
I don't think you'd have got that reaction from Hatate 3 months ago, even if the same incident had occurred. He just looks like a different individual now. He's celebrating goals. He's like that. He's even the penalty he scored against Rangers in the cup, like in the penalty shootout. He was kind of giving it to them. It's not something you would have seen before from him. But like you said, maybe he has the big move already, and if he has more power to him, he can play the way he is for the rest of the season. And best of luck with your new move.
Aye, definitely, Terence. Aye.
I thought the weekend they were excellent as well against Motherwell, which was probably one of the, dare I say it, one of the better games of football I've seen all season, by probably the team that plays the best brand of football that I've seen in the SPL in Motherwell. I think the way they play football is it's a joy, because they came to play.
It's the best to watch, definitely.
Yeah,
but it's in that Falkirk. I give Falkirk a wee mention there too under McGlynn. I think Falkirk play a decent game as well, Terence.
They do, but they do, Mark. I'll agree with you there. But the reason the game at the weekend was so good is Motherwell came with the intent to play. Motherwell came with the intent to win the game. A lot of teams come with the intent of, well, we're not getting beat. Whereas Motherwell came with the intention of, well, we can win the game. And I think that makes it for a better game, because they were equally able to score goals as easy as Celtic were able to score goals, and it made for an entertaining watch. And thankfully, obviously, Celtic got it over the line. But yeah, I mean, you can't say enough about Martin O'Neill and what he's managed to turn around. To be fair,
no, and again, Terence, I'm with you. I play a lot of it. I mean, I've said it before. I think a lot of it is down to the players for me, but I don't think another manager could have come in and done what Martin O'Neill's done for us.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree with you, Mark, about the players. The players are on the pitch. They're the ones that will. It's outside the manager's hands once they cross the whitewash, so to speak. And the players deserve huge credit. But for me, it's the way the manager gets the players to seemingly change their attitude and change their whether it's their understanding or their drive or their belief or whatever it is. But it's a combination of the manager and the players together just have turned it around, because players look like they're going to run through a brick wall for Martin O'Neill.
Aye.
Whatever he says, they'll do.
I even seen.
I'm just going to say Yang as well.
I did a wee pipe up talking about the effect that Martin O'Neill's had on him. I mean, I've always liked Yang. It was the same way I kind of liked do you know what I mean? I just thought there was always something about O as well, and I think Yang's like that. But he needs to find it. He's another one that needs to find some consistency. You know
yes, I know what you mean. Yeah,
I played well on Saturday, scored a couple of goals, but. Come Sunday, is it Sunday we play this weekend? Has he got? He'll maybe have another stinker.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And that Tinecki, he's baffling me, the new terms.
You're not the only one, no, Mark.
It's, I mean, when he does things in your head, like, you're like, that's fantastic, and then the next thing it looks as if he's never seen a football before in his life.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yes. I mean, there's players, Mark. There's players there within the Celtic team or the setup, and there's a couple of them you think like that. But I agree with you with Tinecki. You kind of see him and you kind of think, oh, this guy looks really good, a proper good winger, might take guys on. And then like that, the following game, you're looking at him, he can't pass the ball 5 yards, or he just seems to be all over the shop. He said he is the real 7 or 8 out of 10, 1 or 2 out of 10.
Aye.
And he has to close that gap. He has to be a 7 or 8 out of 10, or maybe 5 and 6, but not going down to the 1s and 2s, where at times he's nearly anonymous in the game, you know?
It's a strange one. I mean, then you've got, Balik Wisha, he's just fell right off the radar, hasn't he?
That's up there with one of the worst signings ever. It has to be, because it's mind-boggling to think that they were saying they were looking at this guy for something like 2 years, and he's come in and he's 5 million. And Martin O'Neill is not a bad judge of character. And Martin O'Neill
can't even get
a tune out of him.
A tune out of him, aye.
Yeah, and Martin O'Neill would have been a guy that I would have always remembered back to Bobby Petta would have been the prime example, who struggled. Yeah, did he again? But Petta for me was one that struggled before O'Neill came in, and then you watched him playing, and you were thinking, I'm assuming he's a twin brother we signed, because he was a completely different guy. Like, whereas O'Neill can't get a tune out of, say, the likes of Bernardo, who's a very strange one for me. He can't get anything out of that Balikwisha. Then you just kind of think O'Neill has obviously decided, and seen so much of him, he's obviously decided, look, you're completely, you're of no benefit to me at all. And considering, Mark, the amount of injuries, and considering, Mark, the amount of injuries that Celtic have had during the season, and with the greatest respects, they're looking to, and he's been a great servant, but they're looking to Jamesy Forrest to come in and head of this guy. If I was in this guy's shoes, I'd be embarrassed. And I don't mean that in a rude way towards James Forrest, but they're looking to bring in a 34-year-old on ahead of me, and they paid 5 million for me, and I've done basically diddly squat, like.
I mean, I don't even know if it could be just like we spoke about before with other players, like with Sutton and that going to Chelsea, it's just been one bad move. Barkas going to us was a bad move for him, didn't work out, but it's just the Balikwisha one is just absolutely one that I can't understand. And then I seen he was there at their game at the weekend too, so maybe he's getting a move back to Antwerp.
Maybe he is, Mark, but like, the problem I have is 3 managers. Okay, yes, you could argue that Nancy wasn't there that long, I get all that. But he was still there for 6 or 7 games, your man didn't get a look in. O'Neill has been there twice, he hasn't got a look in. Rodgers was there when he came in, he didn't get a look in. Well, may not have been there that long, but Rodgers, fair enough. But Martin O'Neill, to me, has seemingly given most people a chance. He's obviously got the proper guys in training with Sean Maloney and Mark Fottingham and all these other guys there, and they're not seeing anything in training. They're not seeing this. They're not saying, "Look, we're this guy is nowhere near the level what we're thinking." He's not performing in training for us. He's not doing anything in training. He's not catching the eye in training. He's not working in training. Whatever it may be.
That's what I was going to say. Bobby Senior is meant to be more like a number 10, like shadow striker type of player. But even at training, that's down to more like your effort in that in training.
But there's no doubt, Mark, is
it maybe his attitude that's stinking? Do you know what I mean?
There has to be numerous things, because obviously, if he's come for 5 million, it can't be his ability. There has to be more there than that. But if I get that, but at the same time, there's no way that they haven't looked at that in training. There's no
Aye,
way that
aye.
there's no way
Aye.
that there's no way that if they're training or playing games, and like this talk of him being in the number 10 role isn't something that happened overnight. We heard this a couple of months ago, that he seems to be more of a number 10 when he was away in the African Cup of Nations, whatever it was. There was talks that he was more of a number 10 in that number 10 role than he was of left and right. So, like, if we know that, they know that. If he's come back from that and he's gone training, I'm sure they've put him in those positions to see what he is like.
See like that there, Bobby's talking about he played in that position against Auchinleck and he was garbage. See, that's the type of game where you'd have looked at you. I mean, again, they're faced to Auchinleck Talbot, but
you have to stand out.
You'd expect in our players you'd expect them to just, even on a shitey game terms, you'd expect them to shine out against teams at that level.
But as well too, Mark, I remember the game because I remember the one he was taken off. But like that, like you're saying, they're playing against them. He knows his chances are minimal in starting the game. And realistically, if they pick their 11 players, he's not going to beat it. He's probably not even going to be at times on the bench. So when he starts, he has to basically, for most people to go, your man looked very well. I know it was back in Talbot, whoever the crowd.
But that's it. If you're running a mock all game, you're impressed, although it's against low league, whatever, but at least he's doing it against somebody you can see something, do you know what I mean?
But I do think it goes back to what you said, Mark. It is going back to what you said, though, Mark. I would imagine his attitude is terrible. Because, like, I mean, basically we haven't seen him since. And I don't, like, O'Neill doesn't, he doesn't, he's not going to take kindly to guys that just don't work. Poor attitudes, poor work rate, poor teammate, like guy that can't be trusted. He's not going to be fooled. He's not going to be fooled by someone like that. And O'Neill will be like,
especially this time of the season, struggling, and it's the business. It's the business end. We're grinding out results. We can't afford to have any passengers.
No, you can't. And I mean, he's given guys chances to prove their point. He's now probably got in his head. He's probably now got generally fellas injured without injuries and one thing or another. He's probably now in his head got 15 or 16 guys to go. These are my 15 or 16 guys I trust for the last whatever is 8 games, 9 games. These are my guys that I trust for the last 8 or 9 games. Because I can imagine if you asked him, obviously excluding the lads that are injured, the current squad that's there that's playing, he's probably got that in his head. He's probably got the one thing O'Neill, in fairness to him, doesn't do much, and he was something that he would never done even in his first term as Celtic manager years ago. He doesn't tinker with the team much. The team generally the team generally most week on week is quite structured. There might be the odd player there depending on a knock or if they've got a second game.
Predictable,
very, very predictable.
Predictable. If everybody was fit, you knew exactly what the team was going to be.
Yeah, and most of us would have always picked it. There might be the odd occasion where there was a different player here or there, but it wasn't up to recently. You just didn't know what team was going to play. When it was the previous manager, Nancy, you didn't know what team was going to be playing. This was a guy who
even Rodgers was a bit like that, but careless as well.
He was there. He failed as well.
He picked players that you thought, well, he'll drop him this week. He's needing a break, but no, he didn't. He done a bit too much tinkering at times, Rodgers, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, listen. The one thing that Martin O'Neill will always try and do, that you look at from the Celtic side of it as well, is for me, he will always predominantly try and keep the back four, generally speaking, the same. Barring an injury, he will try and keep the back four and the goalkeeper the same, generally speaking. And I know that the Finnish keeper is the Finnish guy, I can't never pronounce his name, but he's come in and he's done well since he's come in. So like O'Neill is the kind of guy he likes a good structure in the team, and relies on the same guys to step up to the plate on a lot of occasions. And look, I mean, it's the business end now. It's a it's a 3-horse race. You know, Celtic's next 2 games, I think they're away to 2 Dundees, Dundee United and Dundee. I think it's Dundee first and Dundee United after that. And I think
Dundee United this weekend too.
Dundee United this weekend, then Dundee, and then I think they're home to St Mirren or something like that. I think it is, and there's obviously the semi-final of the cup and stuff like that before the split, I think. So, you know, there's 3 big games before the split, because
it's the same old cliche there. And do you know what I mean? It's like cup finals. Every game's a cup final for us between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, because from Celtic's point of view, Mark, they've now put themselves in a position where the other teams know they're there. You know, they were always that little bit off.
New terms, it is in our hands. After Hearts losing the other day down at Kilmarnock, that is literally, it's in our hands. And if we win every game, we'll win the league.
Yeah. I hear you. And the beauty of it as well, Mark, is when the split does come in, they will have Hearts at home. They will have Rangers at home. You know, so that is huge from that point of view. That you're looking at your 2 main challengers, if you want to call it, or whatever, and you're going to have them at home. What format it is, I imagine one of them is going to be very early in first or second game. I imagine, depending. I'm assuming Celtic will have 3 home games, 2 away games. You know,
I think that's what it works out for us this year. Aye.
You know, so they just look. You'd be surprised, and you'd be very disappointed to see them drop any points in the next 2 weeks away from home with United and Dundee.
But you know, it's going to be 2 hard games.
Stranger things have happened. They'll be 2 very hard games.
Both of them beat us this season, haven't they?
Yeah, the Dundee beat them 2-0, and Dundee United beat them 2-1. Sure, that was the game where Johnny Kenny must have missed about 10 chances. They could have been 4-5-0 up at half time. But look, I know they can lose, but I will also say, you know, I just think it's at the business end, and they'll know as a team, and as you know, any slip up here, Mark, is going to undo an awful lot of good work. Even a draw will undo an awful lot of good work, and it'll give the likes of Hearts a bit more breathing space, because they're definitely, as the term is, they're definitely squeaky bum time.
Aye, and again, that's one of the things as well, which I was a bit like when I was confident of it when Martin O'Neill came back. We Martin O'Neill and with the players in the squad, they've been there and done it. They've been over this before. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
This kind of the kind of nitty gritty. Whereas Hearts players, well, maybe I don't know, maybe some of them have won like leagues or other countries and that, but the pressure in Scotland's a hell of a lot different from winning the league in places like Macedonia and places like that. Do you know what I mean?
But there's also the other added pressure, Mark, that you're looking at a team to win the league.
And Rangers just fold year after year. We know that's just what they do now, isn't it? Really, it is.
Yeah. But it's also the pressure, Mark, of if you're in a hard situation, knowing that you could be a team to win the league for the first time in 30 odd years or 40 years outside of Celtic and Rangers. I think it was like 1985 or something like that. Alex Ferguson's in Aberdeen or something like that. I could be wrong. Someone can correct me if I am. But you know, so there's
a couple of years before that. But you're doing about the same thing. You're doing about right there, Terence. I mean, that would be.
That's added pressure. Like that's huge added pressure.
Aye, because that would be monumental. That would be like kind of earth-shattering kind of thing for Scottish football.
That'd probably be bigger than Leicester City winning the Premier League. I know that mightn't be to people in the Premier League, but it's probably bigger than Leicester winning the Premier League if someone outside Celtic or Rangers does win the league, I should say.
Aye, that's a decent comparison when you think about it, too.
You know, and you know they have. You know, look, it's as you said, Mark. It's now in Celtic's hands, and they know what they have to do. And just I'm sure the likes of O'Neill and the powers to be will just keep them focused on the old terminology, one game at a time.
Aye.
One game at a time.
You're a bit more confident.
I am a bit more confident, yeah. I am a bit more confident now because Hearts are probably definitely getting the squeaky bum time. And to be honest, it certainly wasn't a couple of weeks ago. There's no question about it, and I wouldn't deny it. I said it here before. But I do feel a bit more confident than I did at that stage because the guy in charge, like those 4 games to me, Mark. Realistically, the 2 games at Ibrox, the game in Germany, and the Aberdeen game. Would I have realistically said that I thought Celtic would have got through those 4 games unbeaten? No, I wouldn't have, and I wouldn't have, and especially when you watched the first half of the first Rangers game, the league game, you would be saying to yourself, absolutely under no circumstances do I think they're going to lose. They're not going to win or they're going to get something out of all 4 games because they were destroyed in the first half in that game.
Aye.
Absolutely destroyed. But they came back and ran up.
I think that was pivotal terms in the kind of
Massive.
maybe the mindset of the players and the actual players themselves. That was maybe.
What it was, Mark, I'll tell you what it was whatever. But it was the mindset on the Celtic players, but the psychological effect to me that had on the Rangers players would have been massive. They went in at halftime 2-0 at a canter. And they walked off that pitch, Mark, as if they lost the game.
Mm.
And then they played.
I've even seen like all the the mainstream media and everything. A lot of even them have said that if that game had another 5 minutes in it, Celtic would have won that. And I'd agree with that because we kind of we crushed our spirit and everything during that second half terms, bringing that back.
But mentally, Mark, coming off after that game, they must have been going like, how did we lose that game? And then they played them in the cup. And Rangers will say they had all the ball, all the shots, everything. And they lost. So psychologically, like, as that song would be, say that zombie song is like, they're in their head, like. They're well and truly in their head, like. Because they've played 2 games and you listen to any of their guys on YouTube, whatever, they're going on about it. And we hammered them, we done this, we done that. But you lost.
Aye. And it tells cup games, you know my take on any cup game. If you're in the draw for the next round, that's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you're in the next round of that draw, that's all that matters when it comes to cup games.
100%. But I said that to you as well, Mark, even in these last 8 or 9 league games, if Celtics win every game 1-0 and it goes in off someone's arse and goes into the goals, will Celtic get 3 points? That's all it is. But Celtic, to me, have now psychologically got into their heads. And I think, like, because if you're a Rangers guy, a Rangers player, or whatever, and you play those 2 games, they've now played Celtic 3 times this season. Twice in the cup. In the League Cup semi-final, they lost. In the quarter-final of the Scottish Cup, they've lost. In a league game where they were destroying Celtic, they drew. The only game they beat Celtic was at Celtic Park when your man was in charge.
Aye.
You know, and like, so taking that aside, the last 3 times that O'Neill has been a match against Rangers, he's won, he's had an unbelievable draw, and he's beaten them in penalties. And they must be sitting there going, how in God's name has they done that? Because if we were in there, if it was roles reversed and that had happened, Celtic, we'd all be going, how in God's name did Celtic lose that game? How did they?
In terms, you throw in like the players we've got missing.
Oh yeah.
And the shite transfer window, the last 2 transfer windows we've had have been a disaster. They've signed all these superstars, and yeah, they simply can't beat the worst Celtic team for
a long time.
Aye, a long time. Turns they're maybe touching a glove on us, but they can't. They're no like hurting us. They're not doing any. When the big games come about when it matters, they're not doing it.
Well, and that's it.
You ask any one of them, and I bet you'd have seen the game when they beat us at Celtic Park. They'd have swapped their 3 points to right now to be in the next round of the cup and have put us out. Do you get what I mean? The way
Oh,
the
yeah.
season's planned out, that kind of way, aye. It's, and that, I mean, that, I mind when they signed him, that, is it Scov Olsen? Do you see during the last game, me and Deef Kev are talking about it, maybe it's the wrong guy to talk about it with somebody that's Deef, but I mean, I kept thinking they had a player called Scott Wilson, and it's that Scott Wilson, but see when you look back, they're commentators and they're calling him Scott Wilson. I'm convinced of it.
They probably are, to be fair.
And
They could be.
That Halliday, he was keen, and maybe just the way he comes across with maybe the Scottish accent, but definitely they keep calling Scott Olsen. It comes across as Scott Wilson, but he was meant to be this next big. Do you know what I mean? He was coming out here, what a player he's going to be. He's going to tear up this league, this kind of part. But we hear this all the time with these guys that they brought in. Who was the boy from America? We were linked with him. I can't even mind his name now, but we were linked with him. But was it
something Sens? Because it was that joke. Was there a running joke?
No, it was a kind of foreign sounding name. But they signed him, and even Mikey, human Celtic were in for him. Mikey said he was a good player and all that, and said that. And when they signed him, Mikey was like, he could turn out a good player for them, and he was absolutely honking. But they do it all the time. It's just constant. Every player they sign is a world superstar, blah blah blah, and they hype them up and they fall flat in their face. Time after time, they just fall flat in their face.
But you hear them saying, Mark, as well. I like that. If you listen to any of the stuff, they'll be going, we're losing to probably. You hear people going on that Clyde's Bank or Clyde Sports, whatever show. You hear them saying, this is possibly the worst Celtic team I've seen in 30 years, and we can't beat them.
Aye, definitely, Ter. That's it. Because basically through injuries and everything, do you know what I mean? We're down to our bare bones. Even we've lost Cal McGregor now, although that's debatable. We need a rest, blah blah blah. But he was still our captain. He's still a big part of the team. We lost Jota, we lost Carter Vickers. We're down to the bare bones, and they still can't. When it comes to the crunch matches, they still can't get by us.
Oh yeah, like I mean, if you look at the Park, like people can argue the point one way or another, but realistically, at the minute, all being fit before forms, whatever. But Celtic had probably lost 3 of their back 4, or 2 of their back 4, and their keeper, because if Schmeichel wasn't injured, supposedly, whatever, normal situation, she'd have probably still been in goals. Alistair Johnson would have been probably right back. Carter Vickers would have been at centre back. So no, as I said, Michael's or his dipping form, he deserves to have been dropped one thing or another. But I'm just using it as an example. What I'm trying to say is, on the players that have used that have been out. Jota has been out. We've had realistically no solid centre forward for the Bawz in nearly a year and a half, 2 years. And they just, like, as I said, what the job that O'Neill has done is not short of a miracle so far.
I mean, but right, see the thing, Ters, but we're seriously lacking quality in that final third.
Oh, massive.
You know what I mean? Right, but again, with Martin O'Neill, I'm not expecting Celtic to lose many goals at all, Terence. Do you get what I mean? So you've got to just rely on your likes of your Negrin or whatever, put them up with the odd goal here or there when we need it. But as we're talking about defensively wise, Martin O'Neill's cute. Do you get what I mean? He knows how to defend.
Oh, he does. But that was a trait he always had with his goal side, Mark.
That's the basis of a good team for me, for what you need. If you're defending, that's good. If you're defending well, like we saw at Ibrox in that terms, that's a perfect example of that. We stole that from under their nose.
Oh yeah, but Mark O'Neill I imagine if you sat down and you had a conversation with the man and you asked him, and a simple thing is, if you don't concede, you won't lose games. And I know that's very simplistic and very simple to say that, but if you don't concede goals, you won't lose games. And Celtic will always, no matter who they're playing against, always have the opportunity, a couple of opportunities to score.
And that's
It-
when you're relying on having somebody like Martin O'Neill relying on Larson or something. Do you know what I mean? To take
Yeah.
the wee sniffs of chances in the big games. And that,
Yeah.
that I mean, that is what we're missing.
Yeah, I did it 100%. But he's obviously gone out with the template and the whole lot of going. If we don't concede goals, we're not going to lose a game, and we're always going to have a chance to win it. And they've completely tightened up. Not to give them put the mockers on or anything, but they've completely tightened up the defense. You know, the players, the defensive players are playing. They're defending for their lives. They're playing so solid. They're doing really well. And
How long have we spoke about that for, Terence? That's what we've been lacking. Like
Oh.
the old-fashioned head case kind of centre backs will just throw their full body in front of the ball to stop it. We saw it with Big Trusty.
yeah, and
Skills.
that's all you want.
Skills at left back, everybody's like, oh my God, we've got you ripped apart here with Skills at left back. I
Yeah.
thought Skills had a fantastic game at Ibrox. I really do, playing at left back.
Oh, he had an excellent game, but Mark, what I said to you before as well is, like, you to take your term, you just want those big, rough, hairy arse defenders, centre backs. I couldn't care less if my centre half has got a lovely left peg. I'd rather the centre half to go, right, if he gets the ball, I want you to buckle him and win the ball. Anything in the air, I want you to clear it. And when you get the ball, I want you to pass it 10 yards or 5 yards to him or him. That's all I want you to do. Defend. I don't care that you can't ping a ball 40 yards. Not your job. Your job is to defend. Any ball comes in this box, I want you to scatter bodies. And that's it. Look at Bobo Balde. Look at Mjalby. Look at Varga. There's no way. Valharven is there, yeah.
You'd list plenty of them into it.
Yeah. There's no way you think Bobo Balde, they got him from Toulouse, I think it was. You'd assume it was Toulouse rugby team, not Toulouse soccer team. You know, you'd be going, Bobo, batter him, head the ball, give it to Lennon or Lambert or one of these boys. You can't pass a ball. Just give it to them. That's all I want you to do. I don't ask you to do anything else. That's it. And that's what Celtic want. Just guys who can defend. And just like Scales, would he be the best footballer in the world? No. But he's a good defender. Yeah, he is. Is Trusty a good defender? Yeah, he is. But don't ask them to do things they can't do. There's a reason they're playing with Celtic.
Aye. It's like Terence, as I've said, if we signed him, if Carter Vickers was 4 inches taller, he'd be world class.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Just because he's not the best in the air, down to his height probably, whatever. But that's the main kind of dig way Carter Vickers, even his scouting reports and stuff like that, was always how poor he was in there. And I've said that for time. People used to blame Greg Taylor for all these goals at the back post, but the ball was getting by 4 or 5 players before it got to that back post position. And again, for me, that was Carter Vickers. I don't think Carter Vickers, I've said this before plenty of times, I don't think Carter Vickers is a good defender. I really don't. It sounds weird to say it. He's a better football player than he is a defender, if that makes sense to you.
He might be your ideal CDM.
I've said that before. I have said that before about Carter Vickers.
You know, he can pass, he covers well. He could be that. Like, if you were to play hypothetically on the current setup of the team, if you had Scales and Trusty and Carter Vickers sitting in front of them, and whoever the fullbacks are, whether it's Tierney and AJ or Aurelio or whoever it was, or Srirachi, whichever one that was there. You just name out those 6 or 7 players, and you just look at that and think, my God, it's a solid team. And you, as much as I didn't like him, I thought he's done well since he's come in. Dan Murray, it wouldn't be my cup of tea, no, but he's done okay since he's come in. He's made a couple of bad mistakes, but since the mistakes, he's grown, to be fair. So you like that could be that.
Dan Murray, right? I mean, it's like, nothing against that Ben Arthur, right? He's done well when he's played and stuff like that, but why is he taking, right, if he were full squad with the pecking order, why would Ben Arthur be in front of Dane Murray in that pecking order? Do you get what I mean?
Well,
I
the
know
only way.
he lost a lot of his career through injury, but I don't think the guy's that bad.
No, but he has a tendency to make a
young.
howler now and again. Like, but I
Aye.
think, Mark, it must be down to the fact of the loan, whatever the loan system is, because I'm sure.
Did we need them? That's what I mean. Terms. Did we need them on loan? Oh, I mean, apart from obviously with injuries and that's come in, we did. But if we were off fit terms and we brought in that, but the Ben Arthur guy, what's that doing to Dane Murray?
I get what you're saying, and it's a very fair point. But what I would say on that, Mark, is would you have said that before these performances you saw Dane Murray play? Yes, he made a howler at Rangers for the second goal in the league game, but he did come back well. He won a lot of headers. He did well. He done well in other games, decent enough. He has a tendency to still make the odd howler, and maybe that's just not playing a lot of football. I get that. But my point is, would you have said that before those performances that we're going to bring in this guy instead of Dane Murray? I probably would have said it was a good idea, because I thought Dane Murray at times looked like a rabbit in headlights. He looked all over the place. He's proved me. If you were to say now, you'd say, yeah, he seems to have matured that bit, and he seems to be putting in decent enough performances when he's come in, and when he's asked to come in. Like, he recovered really well in that game against Rangers when he made that bad error. He's played good he's played well in other games where he's come on or he started. He's done well. But I would have said before that situation, Mark, if they were saying they were bringing in another centre back, or will be not bringing in a centre back as we have Dane Murray, I'd have been very critical. I would have been very critical of them not bringing in another centre back.
Aye, probably, but what I mean.
But I get your point. I get your point. You're not developing your own. I get your point.
That's what I mean in terms. Aye.
Yeah, I get your own. But if you look at the way Dane Murray has matured into, he's got better. He certainly has got better, and his performances in a lot of the games have been very solid. I get your point, and I appreciate that, and I agree with you. But at the same time, I don't think that Arthur lad has done a whole lot wrong.
No, definitely no. And let's not be kidding. He is probably a step up on.
And he's something as well, Mark, that we don't have. He's in height. He looks like a tall. I don't know what height he is, but he's a big unit as in height wise. So, as I said, from that point of view, I'd take him on loan next season again if we could. Yeah,
I don't think he would want to. I don't think he'd fancy selling him. Do you know what I mean? Because I think he's got a kind of. I think he's going to end up too good for his kind of thing. Do you know what I mean, Ben Arthur? But if they were only to give him on loan again for next season, definitely I'd take him on loan, and then even put Dane Murray on loan somewhere in Scotland for a season to get him back into. Because that's the thing, Terence. It's like, he's only a young player and that, but I mean, he's not that young. No, I know, and I know he had bad injuries and that, didn't he? It's a few bad injuries kind of thing, but he's 22 or 23.
What I would say,
you go to Motherwell, a young player in Motherwell's 19 and got 100 games under their belt by that time and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
But look at the way supposedly that Stephen Welsh has been playing at Motherwell. Scales went to Aberdeen. Ryan Christie went to Aberdeen. Iyer went to Kilmarnock, I think it was. And it all benefited them massively. And not only them, but when he came back to Celtic, it benefited Celtic massively. Because Iyer was a different player when he came back. Clearly, Liam Scales was a much better player when he came back. Ryan Christie was a much better player when he came back. So it could only help the development of Dane Murray to go to, whether it was Hibs or Motherwell or Aberdeen or whoever, because he's going to get regular football. I don't think it's fair on Dane Murray that Dane Murray mightn't play for 20 games, and then all of a sudden he's thrown into a cup semi-final or he's thrown into a European game. And we all then expect him to be at the level he should be. If he's playing with the Lowland League, if he's playing with the Celtic B team, I don't know if he is or he isn't, or he could be too old or whatever the situation is, but if he is,
It's no helping his progression.
No, how was playing against your normal working lad, and then asked, right, we're playing against Feyenoord there Thursday night. You have to play. We're stuck for centre backs. You know, it's very unfair to ask that of the young lad. Whereas I'd rather go.
It's some leap terms to ask any young guy to do that.
It's Mark. It's ridiculous. It's like saying a fella on like me on the factory floor, striker, and saying, "Look, the CEO is out there. Would you jump in there for next week and kind of look after the ship, guide the ship?" I'm like, "That I wouldn't do." You know what I mean? I know what striker does, but I don't know what that level does. You know, whereas rather than him going to Dundee United or Aberdeen or Falkirk or someone and playing week in, week out and getting football under his belt and getting the hours on the clock, so to speak.
I don't care what anybody says, Terence. That's the most important thing when it comes to young players for me. Playing games, meaningful games against decent opposition that you'll learn from.
It's the only way you can learn, Mark. That is the only way you can learn, is by playing against your peers and better peers than you. As simple as that. It's the only way you're going to get better. Training and doing all these things are all fine, but you have to put yourself in the business end where he's playing centre back for, as we said, Aberdeen, and all of a sudden he's playing against Rangers, and he's playing against Motherwell, and he's playing against the guys that he would be playing against week in, week out if he was a Celtic centre back.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing, and you can see then how they can progress, if they can progress to that level, to be like just a SPFL level player for us, which I keep saying we need players that are only maybe good enough at that level and hope they get better. But look at the injury crises and that we've had this season. We're kind of relying on these players that are maybe only Scottish League level to drag us through these games.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, we look at McCowan, I don't know what's went wrong there, man. He's no kind of doing much to know, you know.
No, he's surprised. He's a surprising kind of player, like, because ability-wise, he looks like he's got everything. He really does. He looks like a really, really accomplished player. I don't think it helped him. The period he had where he was been played as kind of, was it left wing back or right wing back, whatever it was. It was a really strange. It was a really weird position. But like he has been he certainly has been getting game time. There's no question about it. He's been given chances, been given plenty of chances. Even under Neil, he's been given plenty of chances. He doesn't appear to be a starter, and for him, it must be a little bit hard to take at the minute, because you would, in a sense, you could kind of see him kind of filling in the McGregor role to an extent. But they don't seem to appear to be seeing that, if you know what I mean. With the way the midfield is set up, so yeah, look, he needs to. He's a much better player than he's producing at the minute, anyway, Mark. That's for sure.
Aye, definitely. Aye, and he should again. Terence, he's a kid. He's talking about playing at like the SPFL level. He's the type of player that should be. What we're talking about with Ballywisher, they should be shining out at that kid. Do you know what I mean? Trying to prove it, forcing Martin Neil to make a decision.
No, I don't think even it's a case, Mark, of forcing Martin Neil to make a decision. I think it's a place where you put yourself in a position where Martin Neil cannot make a decision. He has to play.
Aye.
You know, I think it has to be a situation that he plays so good that Martin Neil just goes, look, I don't have a choice here. I have to play this guy. I just have to play him. He's playing out of his skin, and that's that. And I mean, Luke McGowan is a seriously talented footballer and a good player, and I just think he needs to push on to the next level, because he's better than what he's producing at the minute anyway.
I think we're a bit blinkered with Murray and Donovan because they are their own, overrated, a bit immature. Ben Arthur is far more convincing. Well, maybe with Murray, I'd take that, Kenneth Arthur saying that, Terence. I don't know if you can see the screen, but yeah. I think Donovan for me is a cracking young player. But again, I'd rather see him going out on loan and getting games every week for some other team. I think he's too good to. I would love Celtic. This was my ideal scenario now for the right back situation. Right, AJ gets fit. We signed the wee mad Mexican. So next season we've got AJ and the wee mad Mexican. Put Donovan out on loan. Put Donovan out on loan with somebody in Scotland to get him playing every week. And then hopefully next summer we make a fortune off either AJ or Ojo and bring Donovan back to be understudy for the other one.
Yeah, and Murray the same. Murray the same.
I believe in Murray. Murray. I think Murray deserves that. To go out on loan and get then rated.
Yeah.
Evening, Estepano boy. Nice to see you, mate. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm getting pulled up. I'm not getting shout-outs.
I know he said
Ian,
there.
Ian McIntosh, nice to see you. And again, mate, too.
I wouldn't. Again, everyone's opinion is perfectly fair. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm blinkered because the two lads are Celtic, Murray and Donovan. I can kind of read it here, and Ben Arthur has been more convincing. I wouldn't deny that for a second that he has been more convincing than the two boys. He's looked very solid since he's come in, no question about that. But I wouldn't be blinkered because the two lads are Celtic boys. I think Donovan's a fine player. I would think Donovan's a better player than Murray. I know they're not the same positions. And yeah, Ben Arthur's certainly been performing better than I would think Dane Murray, but exactly like what Mark said.
That's how he's doing playing for a Premier League team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a reason, like, you know what I mean? I think that Colby Donovan would turn into a fine player. He's had some fantastic performances, and you remember this is a guy just after breaking into the team as well, into the setup. So, like you said, I think if you could get those guys on, like you said, Mark, and loan those players out, those two players in particular out, it would massively help them and help Celtic in the long run. But look, I'd agree that Ben Arthur's a better player, better centre back than Dane Murray. I have no question about it. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm just looking at those two boys with blinker because they're Celtic players.
I mean, and obviously, if we're talking about the right back situation, Ralston's still there and all, but definitely I think it's time for Ralston to move on. Been saying that for a couple of seasons now.
But the difference is, I suppose, Mark, we now have bodies that can play there, even Donovan.
Ralston's definitely. I mean, I've never slagged Ralston off.
He's been a very good servant. Look, he's been a very good servant at the club. Wouldn't knock the guy. He's done what he's a guy that. He's a guy that he would run through a brick wall for Celtic. He would do whatever he could do to the best of his ability. But that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's with the greatest respect. He's a 100 times better footballer than I'll ever be, but he's still not a good enough footballer for Celtic anymore.
No, even as a kind of backup. But never a bad move. As you said, terms he runs through a brick wall for Celtic. Again, he made mistakes, but he's always, whenever he's been called on, he's always been there and he always gives 110%. Do you know what I mean, sir?
Yeah.
Fair play to him, sir. Let him move on to Hibs or Dundee United or something like that.
Yeah, and
I said that as well, Estepone. I'd be happy enough if we could get Arthur on loan again for a season.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any possibility in the world of signing him full time.
No, I don't think Celtic could manage the fees because the fee would be. I imagine the fee, the way it is in Premier League, he'd probably be 20 million, even though he doesn't play much for them. You know, you could pick a crazy figure, crazy number, and just that's probably it. Like,
Murray's made high profile there was a big match. He's put that in isolation. He looks decent. I bet every player makes mistakes, but that's the thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, look at the mistakes Carter Vickers has made. Put that in isolation and he looks like Maldini. Do you know what I mean? Every football player makes mistakes, but certain football players, and we can name them, that have just, no matter what, they've just never, ever going to have been good enough for Celtic. Greg Taylor, Scales, Ralston even, do you know what I mean? These kind of guys that are just, no matter what, they just never get a chance with certain sections of the fans. They take an instant dislike to them and that's it, because they make a mistake.
And listen, as I said, and I've said it on here many a time, Mark, I was by no way Dane Murray's biggest fan, and I would have always been one to say when he was starting, "Oh my God, here we!" I was panicking. What I would say is, and I know I can kind of read it there to say that he does make high profile errors in big matches, and he has, 100%. He's done it in the Hearts game, and he's done it in the Rangers game, but particularly the Rangers game where he made that error of the clearance, which was very poor. But for me, it's how he responded. The rest of the game, he didn't let it get him. The rest of the game, I thought in that 2-2 game, he had a superb game. In the rest of it, he made an absolute howler, no question about it. But he hasn't made. He responded really well. I've seen Scales make howlers, and I'm obviously Irish, and I back Scales to the hilt. He's made howlers. He's bounced back from it. I've seen Carter Vickers make many a howler. Many a howlers.
Callum McGregor.
Callum McGregor make many a howlers. Yes, Dane Murray.
We're going on about how good Ben Arthur was. And this, I mean, I'm not being petty. I'm just bringing it up because I had a bit of a shit myself moment when he done it. The one at Ibrox, see when it was going down to the byline, and I don't even know how he lost the player. It was just. Do you know what I'm talking about, Terence? It just seemed to turn the wrong way, and as if he didn't even know where the player was or the ball or nothing. But again, Terence, that's just immaturity, no experience, do you know what I mean? And I mean, see if this Ben Arthur guy's going to be so good, right? And this, I've spoke about this before. I don't know if I've spoke about it on the pod with you or that, Terence, but see if this Ben Arthur is going to be as good a player as people expect him to be in blah blah down in England or whatever, right? See, like if you could get him on a year's loan. Is that better than going out and spending £5 million on another risk?
You'd imagine it is, Mark, because it's tried and trusted.
But do you get what I mean with that? But
I do, yeah.
Would you rate it? I mean, we're all going about buying players and we should be making that. But see if you can get a quality young player in on loan for a year. I mean, we've done it before with players, or even 2 years. Is that not just as good for the team as going out and risking £5 million on somebody that you'll maybe make £5 million on them in a couple of years, but he's maybe not as good? Do you get what I mean, Terence?
Well, I do, Mark, and I do think it is a good idea for a number of reasons. One, you know the player already. Two, the player already knows you. He knows the environment. He knows the makeup of the squad, the expectation. He knows everything about it already. You buy someone in from the outside in, well, obviously the arguments will always be that Balikwisha, your Barkas coming in, it could happen to anyone, but you're buying a guy who's already been there. It's like when they had Carter Vickers on loan and they had Jota on loan with a view to buy it. You got to taste the product before you bought it.
Aye.
So you know what it was like. You know what Ben Arthur can do so far in the games we've seen. If the option is there,
sorry, Terence, I'm thinking aloud there. He was here for about 2 years on loan as well, wasn't he? I don't mean TB. I don't mean fill the team with loans, but I'm talking about if there's a right good young player, look out, his quality. If we know as well going and trying to get him on like a year or two's loan than spending even 4 or 5 million on like just a level. I don't know. I'm maybe not putting it across right here. Do you know what I mean?
But what I'm saying, Mark, is I understand what TB is trying to say, but TB, it's not a team of loans. It's bringing specific players to specific positions. I.e., if there's a centre back there who's played for the club this year, who you can renew it for another 12 months or 24 months, whatever it may be, and he can already do a job for you. The majority of the Celtic first team are going to be permanent signings. This guy is there. Like if you bring Ben Arthur in on a 2-year loan deal, or even a 12-month loan deal, and you have Ben Arthur, Rusty, Scales, Carter Vickers, you now have 4 centre-backs. You're not filling the team with... I'd be of the same opinion as you. I wouldn't have 5 or 6 loan players on the Celtic start side. I don't think any of us would. So we agree with you there. But you also have to look at this, see, does it make sensible business? And if it means that you could get this guy back again next year and he's tried and tested and you know his ability, you know what he can do, he knows the club, he knows the environment. I think it's a lot less of a risk than going buying someone from, hypothetically, from Sweden or Germany or Japan or wherever it may be, and bringing a guy into the environment who you don't know, he may not settle, it may not work out for him, and all of a sudden you're 5 million down. Celtic know this guy and you know what he can do. So to get him on another 12-month contract or 24-month contract, to me would be a lot more sensible to tie him down for that period of time than maybe going away and spending 5 million on a guy that we don't know anything about. That's what I would say. And I agree with you. Not for 1 second would I want Celtic to have 4 or 5 loanee players involved in the team. But it's you have to remember, it's a wider picture to the squad. But the majority of the Celtic team would be permanent players and players that are already on contracts with Celtic. That's what I would say. But as regards to Ben Arthur, if they could get him back in, I'd get him back in.
And even putting the shoe in other fit terms as well, it's like certain players that we would never been able to afford to buy, your Robbie Keanes, your Craig Bellamy. See if it's something a bit special. That's the kind that's where I can see, where I think maybe even Celtic don't play the loan market good enough terms.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. Mark, the majority of players in the Premier League, sorry, rephrase that, pretty much all the players in the Premier League are outside Celtic's budget in a lot of cases. Nearly all of them.
But they're not even special players.
No, they're not. These are bog standard average players.
And even look at Paddy Roberts. They're a prime example. He's probably played the best football of his career when he was at Celtic.
Oh yeah, and a lot of them think the grass is greener on the other side, but they soon find it isn't. But like what you're saying, Mark, there is the exceptional little players, like Edward was a super player, but they got him on loan. But they wouldn't have been able to afford to pay. They wouldn't have paid 9 million for him up front. At a start, no. If we hadn't seen him play for Celtic, and Celtic paid 9 million for him, and he turned out to be a horror show, people would have been saying, why didn't we try loan him out or loan him in? Or, like, again, Carter Vickers, Jota. We got both of those on loan, and you said you as I would say, you tasted the chocolate before you bought the bar. You liked it, and we bought it, and there was an agreement there. Do you know what I mean? That's just the way I would see it. Would you argue that Jota and Carter Vickers shouldn't have been in Celtic because they were loans? No chance.
Aye, definitely. Aye. I mean, I don't.
The problem is that Celtic's market.
It's everything else terms. There's pluses and
there's pros and cons. There's pros and cons of it. But it's Celtic's market, Mark. Celtic's market that they can fish in.
Did Boric come in loan at first? I know. Didn't know that.
Who's that?
Boric.
I didn't know. I thought they bought him, but look, maybe they did. But what I'm saying is Celtic have a certain market that they can fish in, and then there's a certain market that they can't fish in, and a lot of it is like there's probably players marking the Championship in England that Celtic can't afford, let alone the Premier League.
Probably no, aye.
Because the thing has gone so bonkers. So, like, if Celtic needs to go down the loan route for a specific player, like Iheanacho, I know he's been injured and he hasn't worked out, and it was probably last minute scenario. But it wasn't the worst case scenario to get him in on loan. As opposed to like if someone said we'll get Iheanacho in on loan, or we'll get someone from Dundee or Dundee United, we'll buy them. I guarantee the majority of people would have said Iheanacho on loan. you know, rather than going spending money on buying someone from Dundee or Dundee United to set their centre forward. I'm using it as an example. But yeah, look, I mean, the Iheanacho one, he's been injury prone, has probably been unlucky. But the benefit of the loan is you can let him go at the end of the season.
Aye. But
You know,
any of the ones now we've got terms, the loans we've got the new, who you keeping? 420. Nice to see you, mate. Thanks for coming in, brother. Hail, hail.
well, I mean, the ones we have, obviously, you'd like to renew Ben Arthur's loan deal if you can. You 100% try and buy Arojo just because he's a lunatic and you love him. You know, you just love him. You just know he's driving.
You can go to Halloween as him, Terns.
Huh?
You can go as Halloween as him.
I know, yeah, I'd love that now. He's ahead of the ball. I like him.
Definitely.
He's one of those guys that they already hate him the other side of the city, and he loves that. Like, he'd wind them up.
Never fall in love with a lone player and that, but a wee Arojo is definitely aye.
It's hard not to.
Aye.
It's hard not to. But those two players, you know, you definitely. If it was one of them, it'd be a Rojo every day of the week. Like for me, like he's just, and he's a seriously good footballer in to boot, like as well. Like, you know, it says a lot when you, and I'm trying to be polite in this, when you don't miss AJ.
Aye.
And of course, you miss AJ's ability and everything else as a player. He's an excellent player, but you don't. I think Rojo was probably a better player than him.
Well, I was just going to say, even what I said earlier, ideally maybe keep AJ and Arojo and put Donovan out on loan, but is AJ going to be fit to go to the World Cup? If he goes there, if the World Cup goes on, but if he goes there in a good World Cup, we can get a good wedge for AJ. I would probably be quite happy to sign Arojo and keep Donovan as a backup.
Oh, well, I would too, and again, Mark, the beauty of it is the likes of Arojo. He knows he's in the environment. He knows Celtic. He's bought into it big time.
Aye.
He loves it. Now, obviously, there could be bigger carrots or bigger fish, or bigger clubs come in from him. And by what I mean is bigger clubs, one's financially stronger than Celtic. So from that point of view, hopefully that doesn't occur because. I don't know. Is he in the Mexican World Cup? Is he in the Mexican squad? I don't know any of those things. Or someone will tell me otherwise.
Is he not American?
I thought he's Mexican. No.
No. Well,
I thought he was Mexican. No. Look again. You can correct me if there. But I thought he was Mexican.
No, I think he's like Mexican descent kind of thing.
All right. Well. But what I'm saying is, if they were no his nations in the World Cup and he played well, he's going to catch the attention as well, you know.
He's Mexican, those two players. They're saying he's Mexican, raised in California. He was born in America. I'm just
Okay.
He's definitely. I mean, he's definitely built right into the Celtic kind of vibe, isn't he?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he looks like a right pantomime now. To be fair. Yeah, but there's certainly those two players. Though there's probably other low players.
Taking your for Lustig is a nuttery a right back for us. Michael Lustig will be like, don't sign him.
I think he's a lot worse than him now.
What about Big Tam? I'm not going to try and pronounce his second name. Caverna.
Centre forward, is it?
Aye.
I think he's doing okay, Mark.
There's something about him. I'd like to see him maybe with better players about him, if that makes sense, Terns. Do you know what I mean? Maybe with Maeda. I mean, we're talking about Hatate coming back on his game a bit. Maeda, I thought from what I seen in Saturday's game, I thought Maeda played well as well.
He did. He closed down well. He done what we know Maeda is good at, closing down, pressing, all that. He's still in front of goals. He's like a rabbit in the headlights. I don't know how he managed to score 30-odd goals that time Kyogo left, but however, that's another story for another day. But I thought when he came on in the game, Tammy, he did well. He he kind of started kind of occupying their centre backs a lot more. Kind of like I don't think players get close enough to him for the kind of the flick-ons and stuff like that. He took his penalty. He took his penalty brilliantly, I have to say. You know, considering the situation and the pressure, he took the penalty superbly well. So no, like I'd be like you got to give him a little bit of time. He's not there that long. He's only there since January, whatever it was.
It reminds me a bit like I thought it was like Samaras. That's who keeps me in mind. He likes even Samaras, maybe a wee bit of Chris Sutton about him. I think there's a decent player in him, but again, it's just, well, as I said earlier, Celtic your final third and who's just dire, so you can't really blame that on the striker. Do you know what I mean? Strikers need the ball played into them. Do you know what they need the service?
Like if he was getting 6, 7, 8 chances or 4 or 5 chances a game and he was missing them all, then I'd be going, yeah, look, no, not for me. What I would be like you, Mark. I would be looking and going, right, how many gilt edge chances has he had? How many, really chances you think he should have scored? He should have scored. There isn't a lot that comes to mind. There isn't a lot. Like you said, the service out wide isn't the best. But yeah, look, I'd be willing to give the guy more time. I think like that. I think he reminds me of not as strong a player by any stretch of the imagination, but he reminds me of a bit like I don't know why, but Jan Vennegar of Hesselink, a little bit. Not obviously. I know Hesselink was a good goal scorer. He was a much bigger unit, but he's kind of that size-wise that I just like to see the likes of Maeda and them guys running off him a bit more, being a bit more sensible for
that kind of big lanky look a bit.
Yeah. He does, yeah. Like, I mean, he doesn't strike me as the guy that you can say, I'm going to whip a ball through and I'm going to expect him to sprint onto it. He doesn't strike me as he's got.
He's never going to be like your 20. He's never going to be like your 20, 25 goal a season striker. No,
but he might be a guy who's 10 assists.
Aye. A good assist terms and maybe pitched in with 10 to 15 goals a season. No, he's never. Not even TB saying he's not an actual finisher. I agree with that. Aye.
But I think even 1 or 2 of the goals the weekend, if not, he was certainly involved in 1 or 2 of them with layoffs and stuff like that. That it might have been the second phase after that the ball has found the back of the net. So I think he's better than what we had there, Mark, which was basically not a lot.
Aye.
And I like the way he stood up to take the penalty under circumstances, confident. And tucked it away.
Aye. Fair play to every one of them turns.
Yeah, but I'm saying even on the weekend against Motherwell when it was 1-1, he took the ball. He says, I'll take the penalty. There's huge pressure. It's late in the game. He stands up and, he was very clinical with the penalty down, great finish down the middle, keep it wrong way. It takes a lot of confidence for a player to kind of go, okay, give me the ball, I'll do that. Because, if you miss, that could take the wind out of the sails of the game, and that's it. Like the game could be, whereas Celtic obviously scored a second and they still have the momentum, and then Yang finishes the third. And I'm not even 100% sure if was he involved in the third goal, or was it someone else? I thought maybe it was someone else. Was it a flick on to Yang, or did it just break him, or whatever? I don't know, but. Look, he took the goal. He took the second goal well. He took the penalty well, and that's all you can ask.
Aye, is that with the price? 7 million. Again, but it's peanuts in this day and age. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you look at money was spent on shite.
Oh yeah, well, let's mark 7 million.
For them Baltic Wash as a swap.
Yeah. Oh. See what they say about that. But if you win the league, Mark, and you get into a Champions League, 7 million is a small investment to make.
But again, most of the signings, well, there is talk that there's some talks going on with players, a few South American players kind of thing. But again, it's got to come back with if the new manager's going to fancy these players, or who's in control of building the team in the squad terms.
Oh yeah, listen, I think, as I said to you the other day, last time when we had this discussion, after the weekend, the way he spoke after the game, the way he comes across, I'd love the Motherwell manager as the new Celtic coach.
Because you'll get the same hairdo as him.
Possibly. Probably slightly better looking than him, but that's another issue. But no, definitely I would like him as the Celtic manager. I would. I like the way his team plays football. And I just like the way he comes across. I really do. I would like him as the manager. And also, going back to the other ones that we said before about loan deals and all this, he's in the league. He knows the league. You're not asking a guy to come in from wherever it may be to come into Celtic. And the other side of it, Marcus, and it might not be what people want to hear, but he'd be affordable. Celtic. He's working on a small budget in Motherwell. Like I said this before, and I know it's not the most popular thing, but I've heard people say, no, Celtic need a big kind of manager because of European football and all this kind of stuff. And Celtic won't get a big manager, Mark. They don't spend big money on managers.
Okay, there you go. Ask will be the best since Jock Stein. That's for a guy that tells us Wilfred Nancy would go unbeaten and win us the league. That was the same guy tells us Wilfred Nancy would go unbeaten and win us the league, so there you go. No, I do get what you're saying. Oh, yeah, and Bobby's always on at me about asking that, but I'm just like, nah, it's no for me. He's no.
What I would ask you, Marcus, I know it's a very simplistic question, but who do you think are likely candidates to be the Celtic manager? I know that's it's a very specific question and it's on the spot question. But like, who do you think?
But as I keep saying to us, and I even go back to but Peter Lill said when he gave Neil Lennon the job, he had a file so thick in his drawer of managers that are interested in it. I would love to see who is interested in it, if you get what I mean, terms. Because it's still Celtic. Look at the Huns drag up. Do you know what I mean? Every time, because to the media in the world, it's still Rangers, so they think they've got a chance of coming in here and winning the league and stuff like that. And it's still Celtic. It's still a big, massive club terms, and a great opportunity for some young manager. I'd love it to be Kieran McKenna.
Yeah,
I've explained why. Right? I don't think it's going to happen, but I've explained my reasoning on it. I think could be the next best step for him in his career, rather than jump into a big job and get caught out, come to Celtic, and then I don't mean a big job down in England or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Rather than jump straight in there, come up here, win, get used to running a massive club, some experience in Europe, blah blah blah. I don't know if it's going. I don't think it will happen, but that would be my pick. If I was Dermot Desmond, that's who I would go and make sure it was. Do you get what I mean? Like he done me Rodgers, just what he done with him.
I 100% agree with what you're saying, Mark, and I don't disagree. But where my problem is with the bigger manager, if you want to call it that, or the more Celtic have proven in the last number of managers that they don't back them in the transfer. They just don't. To a large extent, they don't back the manager in the transfer windows.
So there, I'm calling you John now. You sounded like IFP there.
Thank you.
No, but
they don't. But they don't.
It's got to change, there, man. Come on.
I know, but I've been saying this, Mark, since I had hair. That was 20 years ago. No, realistically, Martin O'Neill's time, first time back in 2001, whatever, 2001, they backed him to the hilt. They then made huge cost-cutting situations after that. They probably backed Rodgers in his first season because they had to. Like, they had they had Ida and they had Engels in one season. But predominantly, Mark, They don't back the manager. They don't back the manager with what we as fans expect them to back the manager. That's an easier way for me to say it. We expect them as fans, if the manager comes in, that he's going to get 30 million, 25, 30 million. We expect that as fans because we've got 100 million in the bank, give or take. So we expect them. Like, I don't expect Celtic to spend 30 million on players if they've got 40 million in the bank. But I do expect Celtic to spend 30 or 40, 20 or 30 million on players when they're in the last round of the Champions League qualifiers, qualified to earn 50 or 60 million.
And they sell 2 players for 30 million.
Yeah, and they don't do that. They sell Nicholas Kuhn, they sell other guys, they sell all these. They get 20 plus million, 20 odd 4 or 5 million in for that. And they've already got 80, 90 million in the bank, and they spend nothing. So this is my thing. If you're a big time manager, even if you're say that McKenna lad, right? Hypothetically, he's a good standing as a young manager, he's doing well with Ipswich, the whole lot. If he's looking at the Celtic job and he's really thinking, oh God, I really like it because we all know the connections and everything else. If he phones Brendan Rodgers on a private conversation, what do you think Rodgers is going to say to him? Yeah, I'll definitely go there. They definitely back you. You know what are they going to say? What's he going to say? And if he left Ipswich and came to Celtic and failed, and basically not winning the league in Celtic for 1 or 2 or 3 seasons is failure, generally means you're going to lose your job. That then puts him right on the back foot again. This is my problem. I don't care who Celtic get in as the manager.
But that's what I was going to say to you, Terence, but it doesn't matter, right? Well, even if they get down the cheap route with Askew.
But he's managing on a budget, though, Mark. That's why probably Celtic are looking at him.
But it's not his budget. Askew doesn't sign. He's no signing the players for Motherwell. It goes back to the Bodo Glimp situation, Terence, everybody, get Knutson in, we should go for Knutson. Knutson's just one wee wheel in a cog.
I get that, but what I'm trying to say to you, Mark, is a higher profile manager, would you not agree with this? A higher profile manager would have an expectation of buying a higher profile player. Like if you brought in, again, this is completely pie in the sky stuff, but if you brought in the Motherwell manager and you brought in Jose Mourinho, do you think Jose Mourinho would accept the same players that the Motherwell manager would accept? He wouldn't. He wouldn't.
Right.
I'm not trying to be devil's advocate here.
It's got to be, right. Oh, no, I know what you're saying, Terence, but what I'm saying is, right, we go and get this boy from Motherwell. And who's signing the players? Is it Maloney? Is it Michael Nicholson? It's not going to be Askew because he's never done it before.
If it was me, Mark, I'd be taking lock, stock and barrel from Motherwell. I'd be taking the manager, and I'd be taking who's behind the manager, and I'd be taking. If I'm taking the manager, I'm saying, right, we want you to come to Celtic. Who do you need? Who do you need there? I need this guy, this guy. Well, then, you don't need to. Well, you don't know. You don't. Well, there could be one guy there could be one specific guy in Motherwell that's doing the recruitment that gets on with the manager that the manager really likes, and who seems to be good at and getting what the players that they need and the manager needs, or whatever it may be. The same way that the Bodo Glint crowd are doing it for Nuxon, and the same way that there's a lot of other clubs have the same thing. That the manager or the coaches, this guy does all the buying. Now the coaches, like Mark, most managers are going to have some say in the players. They're going to say, they're going to say, I need a left.
But they're not getting any kind of real power to define teams in that in the modern game, and that's
but they might be going like, well, I really need a right centre back. I really need a left winger. I really need a centre forward. And then you expect those guys there to go and, well, here's 3 centre backs, right centre backs. Here's 3 centre forwards. Here's we think this is the guy to come in. We think this is the guy. I'm sure the manager is involved in those discussions. Going to go, okay, like yeah, whatever, to an extent. But that's my only worry with Celtic, Mark, is that how many times have we said, Mark, if Celtic have a list of 5 players, if they're looking for a right midfielder or right centre back, and they have a list of 5 players. That predominantly the guy who's doing the scouting for Celtic or whoever it is, or powers to be, might be coming in with them, and number 1 and 2 and possibly 3 are told no, they're too expensive. And there's no doubt that the manager supposed to be at Celtic have probably done that before. We've all heard of the Ivan Toney story. We've all heard of the John McGinn stories. The managers might have wanted these guys. But the other guys got, no, he's too there. No, he's too there. You can go, there's possibly 3, maybe we can stretch that, but 4 or 5 is definitely in our budget. You don't think that that's the case? I do. Unfortunately, I do think it is the case. And that's my biggest problem, Mark, with the new manager. It's not who they're going to get quality-wise. It's if you're let me put it this way. If you're a manager coming up through the ranks now, Mark, right? And you're a good solid manager, Celtic are approaching you. You've seen all the unrest at Celtic, the club, the supporters, and everything else. You've seen the last few managers coming in and out and the whole lot. You've seen all the talks that haven't really spent much in the transfer windows, the last number of windows. They've got X amount in the bank, blah, blah, and you go and speak to them, and they say to you, well, you probably will have maybe 15, 20 million to spend. Maybe. What would you think if you were a manager coming to that interview and you were a Celtic manager, you were going for the Celtic job, and you in your head know that they've got 100 million in the bank. They've got a stadium that's filled out. Mightn't be full every week, but the seats are pretty much sold every week. They've got massive merchandising. They've got huge revenue, and they might give you 15 million a year, 15 million transfers. What would you think if you're coming from a league where you're a Premier League manager or a Championship manager, and you're in the Championship, and you could have a budget of 25 million, and they're telling you, maybe to try to qualify with Champions League, we can give you maybe 15 million. That's all I'm saying. Celtic aren't selling themselves well for a new manager.
No, 100%. No, they're not selling themselves well with anything terms.
And that's my biggest feeling.
But again, it's like Askew coming in for his interview, and you're like, it's like it's the exact same thing, terms. What's behind it? Let's face it. It doesn't matter who comes in. You mentioned Marino. We could go and get Marino. But it's what's actually driving it. What's controlling the signings? Who's making the actual decisions? And that's where the clusterfuck of the club is. And we say this. We've been saying this for years, even before this recent nonsense. We've spoken about this, about how poorly the club is run behind the scenes, with the old cliche, any director of football or nothing. There's nobody forward in the club is a football enterprise, entities. I don't know what the word. Do you know what I mean? There's nobody controlling that. Right, Askew comes in, right? Oh, right, Askew comes in the summer, does brilliant, wins us a treble, gets us into the last playoffs of the Champions League or whatever, right? Next season he does brilliant, and then the next thing he's away down to England. What do we do then? Like I keep going on about with Ange, with the B teams and the youth players and all that playing Ange's system. Whose system are they playing now? Who's driving that and controlling that? Players that fit the model, not just for this manager, but they're adaptable going forward. Because you need to think about stuff like that in the modern game. Because most managers, let's face it, it's like players. If you get more than 2 or 3 years out of a player or a manager, you're doing well in the modern game.
But Mark, do you not agree? And I fully agree with what you said there. But what you're saying there, Mark, is also completely off-putting for any top manager. You're saying to me, I'm leaving the club.
It's the same, but it's the same at every club. But is it not the same at every club then, terms?
Probably not, Mark, because a lot of clubs, as we said, they have their sporting director, director of football, whatever terminology they want to use. They have this. A lot of clubs seem to have that in there. Celtic seem to have a situation where A, B, and C still are involved in having to make these decisions, whereas a lot of the other clubs don't seem to have that. Like you said, if you're saying the Motherwell guys, Motherwell managers managing away, and the powers to be behind him, like Nooks, and there's powers to be behind him, are involved in the transfers and the selections and all that, and probably the way, probably the way to an similar extent, people might argue this, the way Hearts have probably something along those lines. Derek McGuinness probably didn't pick that Claudio Braga guy. He was probably brought into him, but he's been an excellent player for Hearts.
Right.
So like that, Mark. That's the structure that's missing in Celtic, like you said. So if a manager comes in and that structure isn't in there, and he goes, well, who picks the players? Who's involved in selection? Who do I have to do the scouting as well as that? And they go, oh no, so and so does it. So and so does it. Well, what's their qualifications for doing this? Like, why? And they go, well, we kind of have meetings, and there could be people very amateurish.
But that's the thing, terms their name managers actually day scouting as such.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, if a manager comes in and looks at that structure at Celtic and goes, so there isn't. This changes every cycle. It's the chairman's involved in this, and finance guy, and who picks players? Oh, he doesn't. He does. What's your qualification to do it? What's your qualification to do it? And if compared to like Bodo Glint, I imagine there's a structure behind Nooks and it's A, B, C, D.
I've sent you that interview with a director of football guy, main terms, and it was how he spoke about how they ran it, and that's what I keep saying. But we're kind of concentrating on the managers of the club's terms, but nothing's going to change. Like, even, I don't know, but is it even going to change mid-term, short-term, on getting a manager in when we're still... I mean, we've not even got a full-time chairman. Do you know what I mean? We've still got an interim chairman. Do you know what I mean? The structure behind the scenes, that is what's needing fucking gutted before anything real, before even... Probably even before terms to think about even appointing a new manager. Because Chief Dermot Desmond ripped up whatever plan he's got the now, and as I put in a podcast, somebody did a pop open in the forum saying, oh, if we get beat, blah, blah, blah. I didn't mean that. I was saying that if we did get beat with Rangers, that was the last time Dermot hit the reset button, mind at Ibrox, Hampden. Yeah. And I thought, if we get beat with them, maybe that would happen again. But if Celtic went out there and restructured behind the scenes, maybe that's going on now. We're still the talk of Beaker going away to UEFA and stuff like that. We've still got an interim chairman. So whether stuff like that's still going on, but it's still again terms the manager's going to come in and he's still going to be having the same problems that all the rest of them have had so far. So it's behind the scenes, we need to get that gutted and sorted. And see if Celtic were sorted out behind that and had all this stuff working in harmony. Celtic could probably get a lot better manager attracted than people would think.
Possibly, Mark, yeah, but this is what I'm saying at the minute. That's why I think the manager style type is going to be the Motherwell manager, or very possibly Robbie Keane. They're like Dermot Desmond has had a history of, Robbie Keane is Irish. He played with Celtic for a period of time. He's doing well as a manager.
He's a kind of, I think, a bit, maybe no golfing buddies, but I'm sure they've had a few days out together on that.
Yeah, and and so he's done well as a he won 2 leagues, one in not the most popular place at the minute, one in Israel, if I'm not mistaken, one in Ferencváros. He's in the last 16 in Europa League. I mean, if his name wasn't Robbie Keane and you gave all these stats, would people say, would you think he'd be a good manager from Celtic? A lot of people would probably say, yeah, that's the kind of guy we'd like. What's his name? Robbie Keane. Probably put people off because it is Robbie Keane.
And the Israel thing's a bit meh, I know, really, to be honest, but see, when you watch his interviews, even when he was younger, he went away to Italy when he was only young and everything, he joined Inter Milan, and he's always said, football doesn't end be all. England's no the be all and end all. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? He's always kind of said that, but
that's what I'm saying, Mark. I'm not saying it should be. What I'm saying, if you said Celtic have a potential manager to come in, he won the Israeli league. He's after winning the league in Hungary with Ferencváros. He's in the last 16 of the Europa League. He's done this, and this, and you don't mention his name.
He's got credentials as a player.
Yeah, you don't mention his name, and you say, well, as an ex-player, he's played X amount of times. He's done this, he's done that, he's won this. Most people will go, oh God, he sounds like a different fella. He's European experience. He's winning leagues. He's a the whole lot. Then you said Robbie Keane. That would click very quickly. Because people say he's coming in because of, like, would you argue you couldn't argue the point that he isn't experienced.
I've said this, and I'll admit this to now. See people that we used to write, and we've been on about it 100 times with like Baby Lil and Daddy Lil and that about the nepotism. See if the nepotism works, I've got no problem with that.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
See, without nepotism, we'd never have had Martin O'Neill as manager. We'd never have even had Brendan Rodgers as manager. Do you get what I mean?
100%. But what I'm saying is, if you said to someone like he's what most people say, oh, we need a manager who's managing in Champions League and in Europe. Robbie Keane's done that. He's in the last 16. We need a manager who's won titles elsewhere. Robbie Keane's won it in 2 different countries. So he's done that as a manager. He's tons of experience as a player. He's played at the highest level as a player. Okay, he's played with Celtic for whatever, 6 months. That may come into that and might not come into it. But he ticks an awful lot of the boxes that people would ask for a Celtic manager. In the sense of experience-wise, trophy-wise, all that stuff. Again, people will be put off because it's Robbie Keane. And look, I'm not saying he is the right guy. I'm not saying he isn't the right guy. I'm just saying he's going to be in the frame. There's no question about it.
And it's even get back to like what I'm saying about like Kieran McKenna. See if there is that emotional connection because he's Irish, maybe. Oh, do you know what I mean? Oh, it's like a long ambition.
It's a draw. It's a big pull.
I don't mind that. Do you get what I mean? That's what.
Well, Mark, we wouldn't have had Martin O'Neill or Brendan Rodgers as managers of Celtic.
No.
Neither of the two of them would have been managers of Celtic if there wasn't that draw from Celtic because of their backgrounds, of where they're from the north of Ireland, grew up predominantly in the Troubles, or both of them in the Troubles. You know, they're both big Celtic men. You know, it was a huge lure.
It wasn't the only reason. Do you know what I mean?
No, it wasn't the only reason, but it's the difference between Celtic getting them and not getting them. Celtic would not have got those two managers if they weren't Celtic fans. No question about it.
Aye. And I do kind of, if that works for you, Terence,
you have to use it.
Aye, definitely.
Use everything you can use, Mark.
But never went for being all happy about going to win the double and that, and to moaning like fuck about who the next manager's going to be.
Oh yeah.
So, right, ideally, right, if you'd anybody tells, just pick any manager in the world, who would you go for?
Any manager in the world. Ancelotti.
Is that who you would go for? Aye.
I think he's unbelievable.
Maybe go for Klopp. He's looking for a job now, isn't he?
Ancelotti for me was just. He was one of those guys. He just with no expression with him. Didn't matter what team he was managing. What
about Mourinho?
No. I genuinely wouldn't, Mark, because I just.
No, his fitness dire to watching that, Terence, but it would be absolute box office, wouldn't it?
It would, but Mourinho's too much about Mourinho. If that makes any sense, you know, it'd be more about him. That's why for me, a guy like an Ancelotti who just He's stone-faced. He's managed the biggest clubs in the world. He's got results, the biggest clubs in the world. He's won titles with the biggest clubs in the world. For me, if you could, that you can. But he would be my guy if you could say, yeah, there's a blank checkbook, there's whatever you want, Ancelotti's your man tomorrow. That would be mine.
Even as director of football, too. Just to revamp the full club.
Yeah, just literally.
I mean, I've said this to JFP all the time when we're going about the board and that. I just don't think they know what to do. It's not that they don't want to do it, I just don't think they know what to do.
But they're institutionalised, Mark. They're institutionalised. Like, JFP is a very successful businessman, right? But JFP knows, like, if Jimmy there is finance, he's finance. If this guy is legal, he's legal. And if he's this department, he's this department, he's that department, he's that department. You need them all to run the company as a whole. But, like, you can't take your man from the finance department and send him over there to the legal department and expect him to run it. It's not going to work, like. So the guys in Celtic are there so long. They're stagnant, Mark. It's just rinse and repeat. And the problem is the world has changed. In football and sides, it's a million times over. But Celtic seem to have sat still. If that makes any sense. Like every club from wherever seems to have directors of football or sporting directors, even in the SPL. You don't have to go outside the SPL. Yet Celtic don't.
No, I've said that terms. Honest to God, Celtic is the only club at any level I know that don't have that kind of structure, that kind of known structure. And do you get? But I mean, see when you even look about it, I mean, one of the teams, the kind of Moneyball teams down in England, was it Tony Bloom? Was it Brighton. Tony Bloom? Right, Davy Weir. He was the director of football for a good few years.
And very successful.
Ajax had Van der Sar and Mark Overmars. One was the CEO, one was the director of football. But it's like, because people say to me, who would you get in as director of football? And see, to be honest, I think that's one of the hardest questions, because it's such a kind of, do you get what, to be able to understand everything and be in that kind of control, kind of things. I think that's a hell of a lot of pressure turns at any kind of club. Do you get what I mean?
It is a massive amount of pressure, Mark. There's no question about it. But it becomes a massive amount of pressure in a club, Mark, if the club hasn't been run right in the first place. If the club has been run right in the first place, the director of football has to worry about the football. He doesn't have to worry about the business side. There's a reason that there's a finance and a legal and all chief executive and chairman and all the rest of them. They have specific roles to do. Everyone has a specific role. The same way as half the lads on the forum here tonight on the live chat have their jobs to do tomorrow when they go to work. They all have their specific roles to do. So, like, the director of football's role is in the name, director of football, to look after the footballing side of the business.
But it's like just like any other job, right? I'm a director of football, right? I need a head of sports science. Somebody, because I don't understand sports science, but I'll get the best guy in that I can.
Yeah.
I need the best. Do you know? That's what I mean. That's
what you think. Strength and conditioning guy in your best. We need a couple of good physios in. We need a couple of good nutritionist guys in. This is all what I need to do. I know this guy. I have links with this guy from my days at Brighton or my days at Forest, or I know him from when I was in Hamburg or whatever it may be. And you try to get the best. You try to get the best unseen guys into the club. That's the right way to do it. Guys that we don't see, that are on the training pitch every day, that are in the physio rooms, that are looking after guys, even if it's psychological things like the way the world has gone now, like mental health and all that kind of stuff. Whatever it may be.
I mean, even the fucking Dr. Football, the man in the hat. I mean, he was, again, for kind of de facto director of football. Do you know what I mean? When he brought Nancy into the fold and all this kind of stuff. And again, but we never heard from him, we never seen him. It was never, his name was never attached to it. Do you get what I mean? It's like nobody at Celtic takes responsibility.
But Mark, he was technically, if you want to deem it, the director of football. But he had nothing to do with the likes of, even though he was there, he had nothing to do with the likes of Martin O'Neill coming in when Rodgers left. He had nothing to likes of...
No. I think the Nancy stuff, that blew him out the water, that Tisdale, I think that's what...
But what I'm saying is when Rodgers left the first time, he was there.
Aye.
But he didn't have any... He did. What I'm saying is the first time, he had nothing to do with O'Neill coming in, or Maloney coming in, or Foderingham coming in, or any of these guys coming in. Yet he's the director of football. But he had nothing to do with that. To my knowledge, he had nothing to do with that. That seemed to be 100% Brendan or Dermot Desmond. Need him in. Maloney was already kind of in the building, so to speak. They all came together, job done. They all left. He brought in your man Nancy. When Pete Tong, they were all gone. But like that, Mark, none of us knew what he did. If that sounds a really stupid statement, what I just made, and I apologize. But none of us knew what he did.
Nobody takes responsibility for anything.
You know, no one knew. It wasn't like that. Okay, the top of the chain in the football is this guy. Everything football related is his problem. Everything. Anything goes wrong in football related, it's his responsibility. And it goes down from him to the manager, to the assistant managers, to the coaches, to the physios, to the medics, to the sports science, to the strength and conditioning, to whoever it may be. And they all branch off left and right, whatever way it would be, like a tree. And he's at the top of it. And the buck stops with him. But at Celtic, it's like you kind of have a guy up there. And then you kind of have the manager. And then pretty much, we'll make it up as we go along. That's what it seems like.
Aye, it's just... This shouldn't be sitting there and we're guessing. It's like, and it goes back to terms, see if a player works out and he's a good signing, the manager signed him. But if he's shite, that's a club signing. You know what I mean? That's just another one that, again, there's no responsibility. There's no structure at Celtic to say, well, this is what he does. Do you get what I mean? This is who the decision ends here. There's nothing like that at Celtic.
Well, Mark, we all, look, that's what I said. That's my point a while ago. The head of finance is finance. The head of this is this. The head of whatever it may be is... You know, if Celtic have long-term injuries, they can't get anyone back for fitness. You question the physios. You question the strength and conditioning. Why aren't they getting back? That's the manager be going, what's wrong? Why can't you get these guys back fit? Club doctors, whatever it may be. It's the same way, like if there's a director of football, and until Celtic get a director of football, we'll have this conversation for years. And we're probably boring the life out of people on the live chat, and apologies if we are. But until they get that proper structure and spine down to the company, which is what it is, it's a company, then they will continue to have this thing of going, the good signing is his, the crap signing are theirs.
Aye, we go and get Askew from Motherwell, right? And just everything, nothing, the only thing that changes over the summer is that Askew comes in, maybe brings in a coach from Motherwell or something, so it's him, his coach, Fotheringham and me Maloney, but nothing else changes. But is that the football's going to be hopefully better because of the way he plays the game. But who's making the signings then? Do you get what I mean? Who's making the plans and stuff like that? It's the actual structure of the club. It's miles ahead. Everybody else, even in Motherwell terms, Celtic are that far behind Motherwell in terms of scouting, youth development and everything.
Oh, listen, Mark, I 100% agree with you. And the problem is, you said it here before a load of times, that hopefully they do, But if Celtic won the league and cup double, it just papers over the cracks. Everyone goes, we won the league and cup double. What are we giving out about? We won the league, we won the Scottish Cup. It's a great season.
What you moaning about?
Yeah, what are you giving out about? You've been saying that for years. What are you giving out about? Well, we're giving out about what we are doing and what we should be doing. It's two totally different things.
Our youth system's an absolute shambles. I mean, we're not ready to wind it up. That's half eight, so we're not getting into that B team stuff in that terms. But everything about it is just so scattergun and so.
Amateur, man.
I didn't want to use that word amateur, but
I'll use it. It's completely amateurish.
We've been left behind. But when it comes to how we're run behind the scenes, we've been left behind by clubs with a skimpy, scurmy budget compared to us. Do you know what I mean? Guys, clubs.
Mark, you said it there yourself, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to anyone, but you said it there yourself. They're miles behind the structuring of Motherwell. And that's not been disrespectful to Motherwell, and I don't mean it that way. But I just mean, like, there's something seriously wrong when you're at that level.
Aye, definitely. I mean, it's like, they're Dane Murray, we're talking about him earlier on, I mentioned it earlier on, he's 22, 23, and we're like, oh, he's still young. Motherwell's young players are 19 and 20 and get 100 games under their belt.
How many games did Liam Lennon Miller had before he left?
Aye.
I know people might say he was a very good player, but he was a very good player because he was playing every week.
Aye. That's one thing, and that's not just a Celtic problem for me. That's a Scottish kind of football problem. Terms that we need to get young players playing at a higher level.
That's probably a discussion for another day, Mark. I'd say.
Aye. Right, we'll wind that up there. That's half eight. That's 2 hours again. Let's do talking absolute pish.
Oh yeah, fair play to us. We're well used to it now at this stage.
Right, thanks very much for coming on, Terns.
No worries, man.
Everybody in live chat, hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember, hit the thumbs up button, the like, and if you do know how to leave a comment, it helps us build up our algorithm thing on YouTube. When we're playing Sunday, we'll try and get another one fired up over the weekend if anybody's about. Right, hail, lads, good night and God bless.